You are listening to the TV Obsessive podcast, brought to you by TVObsessive.com.
Hello, welcome to the TV Obsessive Podcast, episode 171. My name is Ryan Kirksey, writer and contributor for TVObsessive.com, and joined once again by Caemeron Crane, executive editor for the site. The big news of my house yesterday was not anything to do with TV, but my wife and daughter excited because it was pumpkin spice latte season again. I am not fancy coffee guy. I'm gonna go on a limb and say you're not as well. Are you a PSL guy?
What's PSL?
Pumpkin spice latte.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely not. You asked the question both ways around. I got confused for a minute. No, I drink coffee every day. I am uh, addicted, I can say.
Same.
I do not ever allow myself to run out of coffee. There was one time, even when I was living in New York, when I realized when I was about to go to bed at like 2 a.m. that I didn't have any coffee, and I went and bought some. Um,
Oh man.
so, but I drink my coffee black,
Okay. I do a little
personally.
creamer, but I don't usually do the fancy stuff.
Yeah, I used to do cream. It's interesting because like when I started drinking coffee, I put cream and sugar in it. I was like 12. Um, and when I got a little bit older, I started realizing like, oh, I don't need or even really kind of want all of this sugar.
Yeah.
And so there was a while when I would just do creamer. Um, and it's one of those things where I almost stopped in part because it was like, it'd be more convenient if I drank my coffee black. I wouldn't have to make sure that I had creamer all the
Yeah.
time.
You can get coffee
And
anywhere when it's just black. Yeah.
yeah, I just kind of like got myself into it more, and it works for me, but definitely not pumpkin spice latte. And I think that like even, aren't like the Starbucks workers on strike or something? I don't know. There's no cross
Some,
picket
some some
line.
some of them are, but they're never gonna not market their big fall
Uh,
drink day.
yeah, maybe only some of them. But it's also it's too early. It's still summertime.
I know.
Um, so
Well, do you go to the grocery stores or whatever, or go to Target or whatever, and it's all Halloween stuff everywhere already.
oh yeah. Well, because they don't have any like there's no Labor Day
Right.
um decorations to sell or
That's
whatever.
right. They clear out
Um
the school supplies and they bring in the Halloween stuff. That's how it works.
oh yeah, back to school. Back to school is the middle period there anyway. This is all very boring. Um we're talking about Silo, season 3, episode 9. Today we are recording a little bit early. And Ryan, I didn't put this on our show sheet, but I do feel almost compelled to mention. We don't always hit on the celebrity deaths, but yesterday we lost Dolly Parton. Today we lost Tim Curry. And I'm realizing retrospectively we didn't mean to talk about Hayden
And Terry,
Panettiere when
yeah,
she died. I mean, part of it is look, cards on the table. I think part of it's the timing of when we're recording. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
so I'm coming to sit down. It's kind of fresh on my mind with the Dolly Parton and Tim Curry stuff, and the timing that worked out with Hayden Panettiere was just I don't know. There was more space in between when we learned about that and when we recorded. I don't know how much to say about any of those. I mean, for me in particular, Dolly Parton and Tim Curry are huge.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just like for some people would agree. I don't know if it's really not primarily TV, although they did some TV. Both of them did some TV.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's interesting and these happening in back-to-back days. Obviously, Tim Curry is very, very fresh. And just I saw a couple people commenting on that, just the absolutely universal love for both of them. I mean, you don't have
yeah,
they just appeal to such broad audiences, so many different people, did so much good, not only with their work, but in things outside of their work. I saw a friend post a picture that she took with Tim Curry at one of these, Comic Cons or one of these events that was 3 or 4 years ago, when he's in kind of in a state of deterioration. He's been sick for a long time, but still was going out and doing things with fans and I mean, absolutely universally beloved and tough news on back-to-back days, certainly.
yeah. It is interesting with both too in terms of thinking about that, I don't want to go on too much of a tangent, but
Yeah.
because they're also like, I don't know, would it be fair to say that both are also like kind of queer icons, like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yet universally like beloved across the spectrum. Like I saw someone did a side by side one point yesterday of statements about Dolly Parton. One of them was from the DSA and the other one was from Donald Trump. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And this is like the comment was like, "You're never going to see this again," because they were both like, "Oh, what a great loss of a
I
Dolly
know.
Parton." And yeah, just Dolly was. I feel like she was everywhere, particularly growing up. Um, and then I've definitely personally been a big fan of Tim Curry, at least since Clue.
Yeah.
And I saw Rocky Horror later. I think
Same with
Rocky
me.
Horror what came out first, but I saw Clue was what I saw first as a kid, and then like went to a midnight showing of Rocky Horror Picture Show when I was in high school or whatever, where they did the whole, theatrical performance or whatever,
Yeah.
which was really cool. And so, yeah, just, I mean, a great loss. I don't know how much more there is to say about it, but
My daughter has or actually just got rid of it, but has a used car, and she named her used car Jolene. That's how much she she left Dolly Parton. So she's also taking it hard.
yeah, I imagine, and it just, well, by all accounts, she's just a great person too.
Yeah.
That's the thing. If you're scrolling social media these past couple of days, just all kinds of stories and anecdotes and other things slipping out, where I didn't know some of this stuff because it wasn't like she was bragging about it, if that would be the
Yeah.
right word or whatever, but her just like giving money to fund uniforms for like black high school marching bands and stuff like this.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and all kinds of other stuff. So, definitely a sad week. Um, People always talk about things coming in threes with celebrity deaths,
Mm.
but like I think it's confirmation bias in part because it's like, well, how do you count, right? Because
Yeah.
if we if we
What's the
if we
line? Yeah.
if we start with Hayden Panettiere, all right, well, we're at three, but it was like, oh no, but that was like 10 days ago. Um, so yeah, there's some way in which I think if you want to hold to that rule of three thing, you can always kind of make it work. Um, but
I will admit I did get one text from someone today that said, "Well, at least that's our three, and we won't have any more for a while." It's like, oh God, I hope not.
well, and then like on the other hand, I've seen other people like, oh no, what's the third one going to be? You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
just like, it's again, where how do you count these things or whatever? But
Yeah.
at the same time, I do get that kind of pop psychological urban legend kind of feeling because it does often feel like we'll get like rapid succession with
Yeah.
big name
So
celebrity
speaking
deaths
of,
throughout the
did
year.
you ever watch it? This is I don't really know why. Did you ever watch Heroes? I don't know that I've ever seen Heroes before.
Yeah,
I mean, this was pretty massive on NBC back in the day, if I recall.
Heroes is a really interesting one where if you're saying you never checked it out, it's like I hesitate to recommend it at all,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
on the same time, part of me really wants to recommend the first season.
That's what I heard. The first season is just incredible.
I actually came to it a bit later. Like I wasn't watching it when it was airing. And even being, being the kind of guy I am, all the stuff was in the air about like, oh, it starts off really good, but then it gets really bad, you know.
Mm, yeah.
I still thought like, well, I'm gonna push through this. Like I'm watching season one, I'm like, I don't care how bad this gets, I'm gonna keep going. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I've watched bad TV before,
Right, right.
No, I quit.
Okay.
Like it gets that bad because part of it is, and I don't know if you know the background of this, but there was a writer's strike
Hmm.
and they like proceeded with season two with like scab writers or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I might be fumbling some of the details there. Apologies to anyone who worked on Heroes if I'm getting anything wrong. And I don't mean to be offending anyone, but part of that was part of the issue was then so it was one that like the narrative continuity from season one into season two got all messed up and weird and the show was getting bad.
Mm,
And
okay.
but then also they weren't able to correct it well.
Yeah.
And so it just became really a mess, I think. Um, to where, but when I stopped watching, like I was binge watching it on Netflix or whatever a few years after it came out, probably around 2010. Um, and uh, it got to a certain point where I was just like, okay, well, I don't know, I don't care anymore because I don't even know what I'm supposed to care about anymore,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
I just
Um,
recall, I believe this sort of came out in the '07, '08 time range, which would have been the same time of that writer strike that you talked about. And obviously this was on the tails of Dark Knight. This was when Iron Man came out. So it was just sort of this whole moment. It was like, nerds like me were like, oh my gosh, this is our moment, right? This is, this is everything. And Heroes had huge numbers for on a network, as a network show. But then yeah, just sort of like I don't know why I didn't check it out, but it became this conversation of, oh my gosh, what happened after once this writer strike came back?
yeah, well, and like I don't know, do you remember the tagline? Because this relates also to Hayden Panettiere.
Save the
Yeah,
cheerleader. Yeah, save the
yes,
cheerleader, save the world or something.
yeah, save the cheerleader, save the world. But you're like, oh, yeah, that's intriguing. What does that mean? What does
Yeah.
the one have to do with the other? And so on and so forth. And what I can tell you in retrospect is, I don't know the answer to that, and I'm not sure if the show ever gave us one. Like that's how just kind of messy and garbled the whole thing got. And that's my recollection of it.
Yeah.
Um, definitely um,
Anyway,
lots of
good to talk
sadness
about.
around that.
Yeah, good to talk about them and their contributions.
Yeah, for sure. In terms of other things, I don't know that we have much new that we've been watching. I wanted to mention Dark Matter again. I see also that you finished season one.
Hmm. Hmm.
By the time this comes out, season two will have premiered. Comes out
That's
on
right.
August 28th, which is the same day as the Silo episode. So again, we are recording a little bit early. Um, I don't know, thoughts about the end of season one, briefly, spoiler free, or anything like that from you, Ryan? If you just
I was
finished it.
very I did find we may have touched on this. I did find there leave a little bit of a slow lull in the middle of the season, but as I caught back up and rewatched seven and then went into eight and nine, just was pretty fascinated by the ending and also some of the cinematic things they did. And I don't want to obviously spoil some of this the things that happen here towards the end of the season, but sort of at the same time, very compelling story, cinematic, and also dramatic in terms of the tension, particularly in the finale. That was some of the things that they brought up. I think that as I was getting towards the end of the finale, it was from what I understand, I was like, okay, we're approaching the end of the source text. What can they possibly do in a season two? And then they left us a lot of breadcrumbs for things that might happen, and I found that interesting. I think there are a lot of threads to pull on as we get into to season two, but it definitely sort of reinvigorated the idea that yeah, I'm gonna be watching this week to week as it comes out.
Yeah, same. And I'm really curious to see where it goes in season two. I can confirm, based on my knowledge, that season one exhausted the book.
Yeah, yeah.
This, at least according to Brian Allen, who writes for TVObscast.com, is going to be writing on season two week to week. If you want to check out those recaps, you can go find them on TVObscast.com. Um, he's read the book, I believe, as well. And there's no more book, right? And so the idea that there's going to be more show, and as you said, they left their narrative threads for them to work with, but I am really curious to see where they go with it. One thing we do have
Yeah.
going for us is that Blake Crouch, who wrote the book, is I think he's the showrunner on the show. He's definitely
Yeah,
involved
that's what I would look
heavily
into. Yeah.
creatively as well. Um, so we've got that going for us. Now, at the same time, I had half forgotten that this is not the first show based on Blake Crouch source
Mm.
material. And Brian mentioned two. And one of them, I can't, I'm sorry, I'd have to double check. I can't even remember the name of one of them now because I didn't watch it. But the one I did watch was Wayward Pines.
Oh, I
You ever
remember
watch
that.
Wayward
I
Pines?
remember that show. Yeah, vaguely.
That was another show that I kind of feel like started out very good and became less good, as it were, right? Not necessarily to the extent of Heroes, but I
Yeah.
think I don't think that I'm not sure how many seasons they made of it, but I don't think I made it through season two. And I recall them at
Mm.
least making season. I'm a bit more hopeful with Dark Matter.
Yeah.
And to see what they do there, speaking in a spoiler-free way as much as I can, I was at least kind of surprised happily by one of the big moves that they made towards the end of season one. Um, I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
And so,
The only thing that gives me a little
yeah,
bit of pause is there in season one, and presumably the book, there's a very clear goal, very
yeah,
clear mission trying to accomplish. And presumably they will introduce something like that for season two, but will it be as compelling or addictive as the first season? I guess that remains to be seen.
yeah. I'm wondering if it'll have that kind of thematic core,
Yeah.
because I started thinking about how, in a weird way, through season one, it's actually like a love story in a way.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and now, so my hope is that in season two, it just gets kind of like, I don't know what the word I want is, uh, maybe Baroque or just
Hmm.
kind of
Yeah.
like bananas or something, just like in a good way,
Yeah. You can definitely
Um,
pivot it into sort of a thriller type show based on the content that we're dealing with.
yeah, so more than anything, I'm just kind of curious to see what they do with it because I do think that that would be in saying what I just said, I feel like one risk would try to be forcing, some kind of thematic core like season one had when it doesn't really work in the same way. So I don't know. We'll see. Definitely,
Yeah.
we're both gonna be watching it week to week. I mean, we'll check in again a bit down the line. We're also both watching Lanterns, which you're writing on. Unless you have anything more you really want to say about that right now, or you want to hit on anything with these other, you put like five things on the sheet.
Yeah, yeah.
You want to
I
talk about
would like
any of
to
these other shows?
I would like to reserve some space next time to talk about just to recap the season of Furious. There's one more episode to go. Find myself enjoying this show even more maybe than I did at the very beginning. Just Emmy Ross and the characters and the actors and actresses surrounding her are just, I mean, they're just cooking. I mean, they're just doing so. I mean, it's an amazing thing. So I'd like to maybe reserve a little bit of space next week to talk about that after it ends, and sort of speculate what might be next for it. But man, I encourage people to watch Furious.
Cool. Yeah, I still haven't made time for this one. Everything I've seen has been really positive, though, to the point where if it's ending next week, yeah, maybe I should try to find the time this weekend and watch it. Right? Because I think it's only six episodes total. So like there are five now. Is that right?
It
Or
will be 8 when it ends. It'll be
oh, it's
8.
eight where it ends.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a bit more than can I find 8 hours this weekend? Maybe. I certainly don't need to watch like NFL preseason week three.
Yeah. Well, the finale comes out Sunday night. Actually, interesting. That show and Lanterns are, in what way you can competing with one another when they come out. But yeah, both shows come out that I'm into right now on Sunday night.
Cool. I have to check that out. Um, all right. So we mentioned most of the things. You want to say anything about Hard Knocks? I mentioned football.
Uh, nah, not really.
It exists. Okay. I haven't been watching it. I did. I don't know if I mentioned on here. I did watch the recent season of Quarterback on Netflix,
Mm.
um,
I
and
mean, I
enjoyed.
haven't watched any of that, but I've heard it's pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know. Hard Knocks in the past couple of years, I've kind of fallen out of, but I've heard that the season is maybe better. So
It's
that's another thing I think
interesting,
about
but since the
binging.
thing happened with that New York Giants season, the off season with the New York Giants, where they got so embarrassed by the whole
Yeah,
Saquon Barkley thing, all that teams are signing off on now is like, oh, the guys getting together and playing games or getting to go see their house or, footage of the preseason game that you've already seen. So I mean, it's just there's just nothing there anymore 'cause teams are so afraid of what might come out.
yeah, that's a shame. All right. Well, let's hit some other news items. We got a couple of things here. I'll start with Yellow Jackets because we talked about it last week. And it was like you were wondering just out of nowhere when's the next season of Yellow Jackets going to come out, and then I don't know if it was later that day or the next day, something
It's
like
like
that.
one
They
hour
announced
later.
it. It was just like, um, anyway, so I did put something in the notes on the article on TVObscast.com about last week's podcast on this, but did down it again for people who are listening. Yeah, Yellow Jacket season four is coming November 20th. It'll be the final season. Um, If nothing else, I'm looking forward to seeing how it ends.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
I need to eat a little bit of crow because of how much, I was convinced it had been so long since we've seen season two. Now this is going to be pretty substantially under 2 years that we get this final season. So I'm thrilled that it's coming out in November.
yeah, I mean, it's still like a year and a half or something, but you know what, we'll take it. Um, yeah, yeah, I don't have much more to say about that, I guess. But I'm
The
still,
teaser for the season is pretty fun. If you've familiar with the show, watch the teaser. It makes you really excited, I think, to see what's going to happen.
yeah, I don't, anyway, it's hard. I wanted to say something about season three, but be potential cutting into like heavy spoiler territories is like they've made some narrative decisions that I've been a little bit unsure about. I'll just leave
Yeah,
it at that.
that's for sure.
Um, so it makes sense to me that there is only going to be one more season, and I wonder what it will be like and in total, like how is the what the flow of it's going to be like, and also, what's going on in terms of you got two timelines, well, much like with Silo, which we're going to
Yeah.
continue talking about in a moment here. Let's see. And then another thing that's coming back, they got a teaser would be the pit.
Yeah.
Season three, they do seem to be committed to pretty much putting out a season a year here in the winter. Um, you're excited about this, Ryan? I dig it.
Yeah,
I mean,
very, very much so. And you're exactly right. This will be 3 years in a row, January release, 15 episodes. So you get 15 straight weeks. I mean, they've set a pretty standard approach here to 15 weeks, then regather, film in the summer, get it ready, release it in early January. And yeah, I think that this, for anyone that watched season two, you kind of get some questions answered of where some people left off at the end of that season. But uh, beyond it being, I think, a great show, just enjoy the consistency, enjoy the continuity, enjoy just the 24 ER mashup that they've created here with this show, just going hour by hour on a long shift at the hospital. And yeah, I'll be back there day one for season three.
well, yeah, I get all of that. And longtime listeners of the podcast will know that I'm not a fan of the pit. Or like I'm not even questioning that it's good. I just struggle to watch it because of its
Yeah,
form in a certain way.
yeah.
I don't mean the
They
15 episode seasons. I mean like the hectic,
yeah, in
feel of
season
it.
two, they definitely introduced more of the personal drama or intrapersonal drama between the characters, going a little bit more beyond just the case and the patients and what we have to solve, what we have to fix, and who we have to heal. So, but it was a good balance. They didn't go overboard with that, and stuck to sort of the more interesting things, which was how these people deal with this kind of trauma that they're seeing every day. So I was a fan of that second season. Expect to be of season three as well.
Yeah. Man, I continue to hear good things. Seems like a lot of people like it. I'm the weirdo here. I'm not saying. Um, Another thing to follow up on, we did mention on a previous podcast that Prime Video is working on a RoboCop TV series. And we talked through how it seems like the people behind the scenes here are inspired by the original RoboCop film in a way that at least had me excited. And I think you were with me on that, Ryan. So I'm looking forward to this, and now even more so because, at least for me, Dan Stevens has been cast as RoboCop. That's our news item here. I'm a fan of Dan Stevens, and I think it's kind of inspired casting, personally.
Yeah, we have our titular RoboCop here with Dan Stevens. They sort of the line here of the things he's been on. I think we've talked about two things I've not seen before. You keep telling me how much I need to watch Legion. Apparently, he's also starred in Downton Abbey. So I've not seen these things. I'm certainly familiar with Dan Stevens, but yeah, maybe I'm just personally reserving judgment because I don't have as much familiarity with him as you do. But I'm glad to know that you think this is a good choice.
Yeah, and you should definitely watch Legion. I still haven't seen. It's on my radar. A much more recent thing he starred in is The Terror, Devil in Silver,
Oh, okay.
and it's like I want to. This is one where we're at risk of another tangent about like all the different streaming services or whatever. I guess it's about to start airing on the AMC cable network, but it's already all come out on AMC Plus.
I see.
And that's just been my hurdle to actually watching the thing. Um, because the Terror is like an anthology series, so it doesn't really matter, I don't think, if you've seen previous seasons or anything like that. But yeah, I like Dan Stevens, and it makes me think about when I said inspired casting, just I don't know, his vibe when
Mm,
it comes to thinking about RoboCop, because this is what's important. I always think is that RoboCop is not a hero so much as a victim. Like
yeah,
RoboCop is a tragic figure in a way, and um, you to be able to play that in sort of just the right way. And I think that
yeah,
I'm confident that Dan Stevens will be able to do that in a way that maybe resonates with. I'm rambling because I definitely know the guy's name who played RoboCop in the film. Peter Weller, is that what it
yeah.
is?
That's exactly what it is,
Okay.
Peter Weller. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think it's sort of inspired casting. I'm looking forward to this more and more, and you know, I don't know. I've seen some other people point out how there've been multiple RoboCop films and
Yeah.
attempts at TV series, and like the only thing that was good was the original film, and I agree. And so
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know, but I'm more hopeful for this iteration of RoboCop than I have been for anything
Yeah.
else, like the
Well,
the
I think
PG-13 reboot or anything.
you're making a good point though. It's like you don't want Arnold Schwarzenegger playing RoboCop, right? This is not an action character. You need someone that can give some depth to this because it is, you're playing off the who am I, what was I, what have I become sort of questions when you're dealing with RoboCop. Even I think the movie was Joel Kinnaman, was who starred in that 10 or 12 years ago. Even I think someone like him who I like didn't really have that to be able to
Mm.
bring to RoboCop. So I think that's a good point you're making about, it's very important that you nail the who's going to play the character, not just sit in the robot suit, but who's going to play the character.
Yeah. So we'll see. Could be great, could be very bad, but I like the big swing of it. I'm
Yeah,
sure they
yeah.
don't view it that way, by the way. I'm sure the suits at Amazon are like, we own this IP. There's a continuous history of popularity.
That's right. That's right.
But I feel like it's actually relatively risky because even for fans of RoboCop, I'm imagining a lot will be sort of more like me, who, like look at the idea of a new TV show with kind of from this, and give the side eye a little bit. But, oh yeah, I'll check it out. But then if it's good, I'll be
Yeah,
into it. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
Um, I'm definitely looking more askance at the last thing I put on our sheet. Did you watch Sons of Anarchy? I can't really recall now if we've talked about this one
I
before on the pod.
adore Sons of Anarchy. I mean, it is one of my favorite shows. So I'm gonna let you describe what this is because I am really side-eyeing this thing and not sure what to think about it.
Um, so I believe that Charlie Hunnam is the main creative force behind this, if I'm understanding it properly. And plans are in the works. Things are in motion for this Legends series. And the idea is related to Sons of Anarchy as a kind of meta idea, as I
Hmm.
understand it, that um, Kurt Sutter is not involved. He signed off, but he's not involved. And he doesn't think he should be involved. And like the idea is that it is if I'm understanding this right, I believe it is basically the actors who played the characters on Sons of Anarchy playing versions of themselves at a Sons of Anarchy fan convention
Hmm.
who are then encountered with some real world, quote unquote, real world problem that they have to solve. I don't know if there are more
A,
details on
a
that.
a real world, this is a quote, a real world threat more dangerous than anything they ever faced in their show. Um,
Okay.
if I'm Kurt Sutter, I'm absolutely admitting I'm not a part of this, frankly. I, I just don't know what to do about this sort of, as you said, meta fourth wall breaking. It parallels here to is listed in this piece to Galaxy Quest, which I get that premise, but like that knew what it was. It was very much a satire and was trying to do different things than, oh, our characters are actually really part of a gang and they're in trouble and so they have to face some real world problems. I don't know what to think about this.
I really don't either. I'm kind of intrigued, I'll say
Yeah.
that, but not necessarily in a way where I think it's going to be good. Um, I don't know. I mean, for me, even it's funny that they would do this with this show too. My experience with Sons of Anarchy is maybe a little bit more what love hate than yours from what you said anyway,
Mm.
because at least by the end, I thought it got quite bad. You
Yeah, I wasn't
disagree?
necessarily a fan of the last season. I think the highs are some of the highest things I've ever seen.
Yeah. Um, So, but like, if I were to articulate some of my complaints about how it ended, some of them would be along these lines. Like I recall watching, maybe it was in the series finale, and like I was just like watching it with a friend and turning to them and saying like, that scene doesn't make any sense. Like that scene's
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah.
It's not like it doesn't make any sense that the characters in the show would be having that conversation at all, you know, and things along those lines. And I don't know. There was also a way in which I felt like that final season maybe got a bit self-indulgent, like it needed an editor or something, and the
Mm.
episodes were overly long. But that wouldn't be something to blame on the actors. I don't know, man. I really don't know. It's definitely not the kind of thing that I read about and got immediately excited about, but
Yeah.
it seems like it could be. I feel like there could be a way in which there is kind of a really weird, cool idea here. Like there's a chance it could be quite
Yeah.
good.
I'll certainly be checking this out. I mean, this whole piece here is just praise for Charlie Hunnam and this idea that he brought to them and how intrigued they were and how impressive it was, or this innovative thing that he came up with. And even though that Sutter's not involved, he just thinks that, he says that his wife is, and just has, just can't wait to see what happens here. So I could be completely off base here, and this will just be the most incredible sort of innovative sequel to a show. So I'm willing to give it a chance. It just sounds
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how to put it. It just sounds different.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. And I also I never watched the spin-off that they did either. They did a Mayan spin-off. Did you ever watch that?
I never saw Mayans. No, never
No,
watched it.
me neither. That was the thing. It was really odd for me because there was definitely a period when I was pretty into Sons of Anarchy and held it up in my mind as like one of the
Yeah,
best shows on TV.
yeah.
It went, at least went downhill enough that by the time it ended, I was like, well, okay, kind of glad that that series is over. And then when they were saying, oh, well, here's mine, it's like, nope, not interested at all, And so
Yeah,
um, it's a weird thing that they want to kind of dip into that world, but do it in a kind of meta.
yeah.
Or I'm
And
intrigued.
there's some reasons why they have to do it this way to get the whole gang back together, as it were. But
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
I
they
guess
couldn't
I'll.
actually like be the characters because like it would almost have to be a prequel show
Yeah,
because spoiler alert, people die
a lot of people die. Yeah,
people die in the violent motorcycle gang show. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see about that if it happens, when it happens, and so on. But okay, you ready to talk about this week's silo? We have quite a bit to work through here, I think.
yeah. We definitely need to spend some time with this one.
All right, we're up to season 3, episode 9 of Silo, titled Farewell. This will be your spoiler warning. Spoilers will be on the table here for everything inside of the TV series. On the other side of a brief musical interlude. So we'll be back with you in just about 10 seconds.
Okay, we're here to talk about Silo on Apple TV, Season 3, Episode 9, titled Farewell. This episode written by Jeffrey Wang and directed by Amber Templemore. In Silo 18, Bernard approaches Camille, and the two go to the algorithm. He proposes that Camille reverse the vitamin D plus in the water. In exchange, he'll prevent a rebellion by accepting blame for past murders and admit that he sent Juliet out to clean illegally. Algorithm disagrees with this plan and recommends that Bernard be sent out to clean in addition to continuing with the vitamin D plus. Algorithm then abruptly ends the conversation, which leads Bernard to believe it might be a human talking to them, which means it might be able to be defeated. When Juliet is in prison, a rebellion starts to form about the drugs in the water. Knox and Juliet help send the group away, And as they try to get into water filtration, and Juliet tells them the vitamin D plus drugs are a lie at Camille's request. Bernard is sent outside without a suit, but is able to tell Juliet about the algorithm before he goes. He believes his death will cause a distraction so their team can carry out another plan. And as Bernard dies, an explosion down in the mines rocks the silo. In the before times, 3 years have passed, and Daniel and Helen are together and expecting a child. They travel to Georgia for the opening and tours of the silos. They stay with Anne and Charlotte the night before and learn more about what happened over the course of the project. When they arrive, Daniel is sent to Silo 1 for a tour and meeting with Senator Thurman. Helen is sent to Silo 18. As Thurman, Stinson, Henry, and Anna prepare for a big event later that day, Daniel gets some kind of ominous text from Charlotte, which compels him to go find Helen. But before they can meet, a large nuclear bomb goes off near Atlanta, forcing everyone there into the silos.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm going to set a little bit of a stage for you and explain why for this, for particularly for the before times, which is where we probably need to start. I'm largely going to have to react to you in your comments. Okay,
Okay.
um, so what we just saw in the before times is at the it ends part one of three parts of the second book, right? So we're basically through almost through the second season, and we're maybe a third, maybe a little bit less than a third of the way through the book, which is a prequel to
Yeah.
what we saw in the first couple of seasons. So there's a lot of things that happen that explain what we just saw. And I don't know how much of it we're going to get in the finale. And so I want to turn it over to you as to your thoughts on, what has happened here in the before times. What do you think happened? Clearly we've got Daniel in 1 and Helen in 18,
Yep.
which, they, as you, you messaged me that they really were projecting early on in the episode. So what happened here and sort of what's your thoughts on where we go from this point?
Yeah. So, and no, for everyone listening, right? Our promise is no book spoilers. I haven't read the books at all, and that's part of why
Mhm.
Ryan's throwing it to me like this. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's a shame in part because I would like to have been able to ask you whether you saw it coming to the same extent that I did. This is not at all a criticism, but I'd be curious to know from viewers in general, others, because for me, like that entire back half of the episode was so filled with tension and dread.
Mm,
And like by the time we got to the end of the episode, I kind of wanted to throw up.
mm.
I mean, so like I thought it was really great television in a
Yeah.
way, but I, would have to hesitate to say anything like, "Oh, I really enjoyed that." You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I enjoyed feeling ominous dread that paid off. Um, so I wasn't surprised. I mean, like, so look, I mean, how soon? I'm not positive. I know at very least by the time that they get there, and but by the first time that it said that Helen is going to tour Silo 18.
Yeah.
I was thinking, oh no, she's got that Pez dispenser in her purse, and she's never coming out. Now, how do we want to work through that? You want me to just like tell you how I'm interpreting everything? Is that what we want to do here?
So let's start at the end. Um, there is we learned in the last episode about Iran, the nanotechnology, the dirty bomb that wasn't a dirty bomb, this sort of war that was started. Are you thinking this is a retaliation from them? Are you thinking that this is something else, or what's the cause of this bomb that's gone off while they're touring this thing and opening it up?
Okay, good. Yeah, we can start there. Let's try to do it this way because I know that you're gonna want to be careful about what you say and what
Mhm.
you don't say. Let's start with that question of how we just interpret what's in this episode. Okay, we'll do our
Yeah.
best to stick to it. And then that's going to spin out into questions where I guess it might be more along the lines of me getting this into speculative theorizing
Hmm.
and you feeling like you have to keep your mouth shut. Fair enough. Just interpreting the episode. I thought it was abundantly clear that Paris Stenson set off that bomb.
Okay.
He, Henry knew it was going to happen. Anna knew it was going to happen.
Hmm.
Of course, but I don't think Senator Thurman knew it was going to happen. the way that the whole scene plays out, right? So even you go to the night before, and the Keens are talking about the idea of meeting for breakfast, and it's like, oh, I don't know, we might have to get there early or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, then it turns out that they did have to get there early, and you can't find Charlotte, right? And you mentioned your summary, the ominous text message. It was like a payoff for this running joke they have where one of them says, if mom and dad were still alive, the other one says, like, they'd be clawing to get out of their coffins.
Yeah.
And she responds in a different way, saying, like,
Yeah.
mom and dad will want you to be patient. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that's no good, you know.
That's not it. Yeah.
Um, but he's sitting next to Anna at that point. So this is my interpretation. She's in on it. She knows. She
Hmm.
got there early with Charlotte so that Charlotte would already be in the silo so that her lover, Charlotte, who has PTSD, doesn't have to go through the traumatic event of the nuke going off, which Anna knows is going to happen.
Yeah.
Senator Thurmond doesn't apparently know it's going to happen because she's preparing the speech she's never going to be able to give.
Yeah.
Per Stenson, who of course I think is behind it, makes it, I think, clear that he knows she's never going to give her that speech. He's like starts playing chopsticks when she's
He's
rehearsing, whatever. It's very
not
rude.
paying attention at all. Yeah.
Um, like this is whatever. This is just a distraction, whatever. Then I think there are also good indications that Henry knows, because he's immediately following Daniel to try to keep him from leaving the area of
Right.
Silo 1.
Yep.
I think Dr. Sinovich knows, but I'm not positive on that. Basically, I think all of those people know, except for Senator Thurmond. But I presume that she's enough of a politician that she'll just end up going along. Like maybe she was the naive politician who was duped into providing funding, thinking that it was
Hmm.
a just in case plan.
Yeah.
But she's still going to continue to be that kind of politician to the extent that she'll end up going along. Um, Daniel, I don't think will, and Helen in particular, I definitely don't think will. And this is something I want to talk about in terms of their separation, which I'm presuming is by plan. And at least this is my starting point. And I don't know if you have any pushback or disagreement about it, but this is my interpretation of what happened is that it was this immensely cruel act performed by evil people
Yeah.
who I personally will never forgive no matter what happens in the future.
So I guess the question would be then why go through all this pomp and circumstance of, you know, setting up tours and a stage and getting Peter Gabriel out there and preparing a speech and all this. Like why go through all of that if it's just you know that you've got this plan in mind to get people in there, get certain people that applied into the space.
Yeah, that's how they're populating the silos, right? So we're told basically that you have to have gotten a quote golden ticket or whatever in order to
Yeah.
come for this event. We aren't told exactly how many people, so I don't know if we're talking 50,000 people, or if the original population of the silos was below 10,000 and 10,000 was an upper limit that they would get through sex for pre-production.
Yeah. Population
Um,
control, basically. Yeah.
but that's my read on it is that everyone who comes, like they've given them a special invite.
Yeah.
And so, but really what this is a matter of Stenson and whoever else making decisions about who's going to be in the silo. And so as I'm interpreting it, they have very intentionally decided to separate Daniel and Helen as a part of this
Yeah.
plan.
It,
Um,
it I do want to dig a little bit on the numbers. It seems like, you can't count necessarily, but maybe there are dozens or a few hundred people there. I mean, it's hard to tell. You're never really seeing a whole crowd. Like we don't see the crowd come and listen to the speech, but it certainly doesn't look like there are 10,000 people per silo like you were talking about. So it's kind of like we're gonna,
yeah.
to use the phrase that they used last week, we're gonna seed these silos and let things grow from there. But it doesn't seem like the numbers are that large. They were taking, a few groups of 20 in to tour them at a time, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is it seemed at least that there were indications that there were waves,
Hmm.
so like the people in Helen's group were not all of the people who went into Silo 18 that day. Yeah, again, like getting up to 10,000 per silo would be a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Yeah, I am trying to acknowledge that maybe it's not that many people. Back last week, uh, we were told the plan was to have 100 people live in each silo for a test period.
Yeah,
Um,
while we get it ready to be self-sustaining, exactly.
yeah, and I believe that's already been happening. I think we're told that here.
Hmm.
So I don't know for how long. When exactly did they complete the silos? When did people start living in them? If it was 100 employees who were coming in and out. Who all
I
knows
think the
about the
guy who
plan,
was
who
the
doesn't?
I think Helen's tour guide says that he was from England. He'd been living there just under a year.
Yeah, that sounds right. That's more or less my recollection. The guy with the meta glasses. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, I wanna throw to you in terms of pushback or whatever, but then at the same time, you know more than I do. I
Well,
don't know. Just in terms of the episode, does anything that I've said feel like it doesn't hold up?
no, I don't think so at all. It seems to be, just trying to come at it from an objective a position as possible. There's a lot of coincidence for, this to just be by accident. This just happens to be everybody's here and ready and at the right place when the bomb goes off, right? And so, I mean, there's still, I mean, in my mind, even what, I understand the question of, okay, well, why? Why do this? I mean, we obviously don't
Hmm.
know what's happened over the last 3 years, but last that we had a conversation with these people in episode 8, it was, well, we think something's imminent. We think there's a number of different threats. The primary one in our mind might be nanotechnology, but there's all kinds of things, disease and climate change and war
Yeah.
and nuclear weapons. But, why, when we thought this was a position or a place to be able to protect and reset, why would Pear initiate it himself?
I mean, this is where I'm curious to see what further information we learn here. Um, I'm struggling to see anything that could sway me
Hmm.
off of my negative moral judgment against Per Stenson,
Yeah.
in particular because of the Daniel and Helen thing.
Yeah.
Um, but in terms of the broader question, maybe it might be more possible. I don't know. Maybe I need
Yeah.
to flesh out what I mean in a little bit more detail because I said that kind of abstractly. Um, Start with the broad scale question. Again, my reading of what happens in this episode is that Per Stenson set off that nuke to force people to go into the silos.
Yeah.
And that means that there is a big question here of whether it was just one bomb in Atlanta. Did he set off a global nuclear war?
Yeah.
Um, or whatever. Like, even presuming that he's behind what's happening, what's the extent of it? Because there's a pretty big difference between one nuke going off in Atlanta and, so it would take something like broader to create nuclear winter. I mean, like, look, of course, nuclear bomb going off is bad, but
Yeah.
I mean, Hiroshima was hit with a nuclear bomb. Nagasaki was hit with a nuclear bomb. Like, these cities still exist. Japan still exists. The world still,
Right.
goes on. Um, and so I don't know about that, but in terms of a possible line of quote unquote justification, I suppose there could be some way in which someone like Paris Stenson knows that stuff is happening, maybe involving those
Mm.
nano weapons or whatever, that is where, like, maybe now the threat is imminent, and the only way to get people into the silos is by setting off this bomb, which it
Yeah.
almost feels like he has to be behind it for reasons I was pointing
Yeah.
to earlier. Um, but the real threat's not the bomb. That's just, it's going to be right there. So of course they're going to run to safety in the silos. But the broader threat is what's leading him to say, now, we have to do this. This isn't a plan for the future.
Yeah.
It's something we have to do now. Okay, but, and apologies to everyone if I'm rambling too much. Personally, I don't think that Per Stenson is rational. I
Mm.
think he's a paranoid, evil tech
Mm.
billionaire
Yeah.
who is spinning out on this kind of it's not entirely ungrounded to think that there are these threats in the world and so on.
Yeah.
In the real world, there are, and then you can throw in the threat of nano weapons or what have you. But he thinks my read of it is he thinks that he's so smart
Yeah.
that he's figured out the only way for humanity to survive is through the silos.
Yeah.
And whether there is that more imminent kind of threat coming from Iran or elsewhere, I'm dubious of.
Yeah.
We might
Yeah.
learn more about that. Regardless, in terms of my moral judgments of the man, what, presuming I'm right that he's behind the nuclear bomb and everything, which again, I know it's hard for me to see how I'm wrong with that. Like in the recap article I wrote for TVObscast.com, I'm not even like hedging my bets on that. Like this is what happened according to
Yeah.
Cameron. Um, and maybe a little bit. I think there might be one point where I said like, well, some might disagree with my interpretation. Let me lay it out, but if he, presuming he is behind it, what he has done to Helen and Daniel, I think is utterly unforgivable.
Yeah.
They are clearly together now. I think they're married, although I'm not sure if that's fully confirmed, but regardless,
Yeah.
they're having a kid
Yeah.
together. And if this was all planned, then it seems clear that part of the plan was to separate them.
Yeah.
I'm presuming intentionally forever for the rest of
I,
their lives.
I think that's a safe assumption. And here where I will interject because even what things I know and have learned, you have to remember Paris Denson is a complete invention of this show.
Right.
There's no similar character or archetype in the book, and so they have taken some license with this, which I think is very interesting and leads to some things that may be wildly different from things that I have read. And so I think that if I'm looking at it from that perspective, that I'm largely in agreement with you that Paris Denson doesn't just think that there are threats, that he's creating the threat by doing this and leaving, to your point, Thurman out of it so that he can say, look, see, I told you, as a representative of the government or whatever's left of the government, you need to be able to do this, or you need to authorize this, or you need to give me a sign off for whatever. And so him not only saying that there will be threats, but creating the threat so that this happens and orchestrating it as he wants. And that is a question of mine is why then I guess are Daniel and Helen invited to this? It seems like they are, and if they are, why are they separated? That's I guess what I don't understand.
Best read I've got on this. Okay. Throughout this episode, virtually everyone Daniel runs into says, "Oh yeah, man, you were right. We used 50 drills.
Yeah,
Um, wish you'd agreed to be part of the project all along. We could have used you,
yeah,
and so on and so forth." Okay, so why is Daniel going to be in Silo One? Well, they've chosen him to be a part of that inner circle, even though he had denied it earlier. So I'm presuming
yeah.
Silo One's going to be the inner circle. And they've even made sure that Peter Gabriel is there to provide them with entertainments.
Oh no, they sent Peter Gabriel off to 17. They said, "Do you
Oh,
want to
did
go
they?
tour 17?" Which while we get ready for this whole event, which just gives me a fan theory that this is like Jimmy is a descendant of Peter Gabriel or something.
Okay.
That's what I'm hoping.
Okay. Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. I had a thought related to that hopefully we'll have time for. So anyway, that was just a quip anyway. So I take it they've decided they want Daniel to be a part of that inner circle in Silo One.
Yeah.
They don't want Helen to be in that inner circle because they don't like her.
Yeah, that's right.
They think she's annoying.
That's right.
She's,
Ask too many questions.
yeah, and that's
Yeah.
it. So I think the rationale is wholly punitive,
Yeah.
basically. Um,
And Daniel had a choice 3 years ago. Now you have no choice. We are putting you in this whether you want to or not.
and see, that's the thing in particular. Regardless of whatever else is going on in this world, particularly how they've set this up in the show, at the end of last week's episode, the moment when Daniel and Helen come together and their relationship really begins as a romance,
Hmm.
is him coming to the helicopter and saying, "I want to become gray goo with you."
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So they've decided, come what may, come nuclear Armageddon or whatever,
Yep.
we're not doing that. And that's a way in which I think that this um is forcing them and really a violation of their autonomy as persons.
Yeah.
And add to that the separation. This is where I just think it's just like, an unforgivable moral wrong.
Yeah.
Because they basically, now you could question this, whether any rational person would really hold to this or whatever, but they basically asserted that they would rather die than go
Hmm.
underground. They'd rather die in the nuclear holocaust than go underground and live in the
Yeah.
silo.
And I was thinking about this as well. If I'm Daniel, I'm probably, except for the fact that my sister is there, I'm not accepting an invitation to this thing. Like, I don't want to be involved with this group anymore, except I can now, my sister wants me to come and see what she's been working on. Um, we're not going to be able to, travel as much once we have a kid, whatever it is. But, there's no real reason for him to go or be around these people other than Charlotte's there.
Yeah, and I mean, you could question their decision to come to this event, but
Yeah.
Helen also wants the tour. She
Yep.
wants
Yep.
to break the story. That was part of the promise to her 3 years ago. Um, so yeah, I mean, should they have somehow been smart enough? Should they have been distrusting enough to have not gone that day?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a big ask. But then it is interesting in terms of how this is going to move forward, right? Because I said earlier, I think Senator Thurman didn't know that the bomb was going to go off, but I presume that she will go along.
Yeah,
Daniel,
will she go along with a lie, or will she go along with the truth if she's told the truth?
I don't know
If
what the truth is.
if Bear Stinson
This,
says, "Oh, my people have determined this came from Iran," of course, you should be like, oh, "Absolutely, we're going all in on this."
yeah, I don't know. I mean, you're right because it's the question of whether this was one bomb or global war,
Yeah,
or I mean, I presume we'll get some more on that in the season finale.
I would think we would have to.
Um,
We have to.
But I'm
Yes.
thinking even like going beyond that as I'm kind of spinning out, speculating a bit. Where I was going to go is to say, I don't really think that Daniel will. I
Mm,
think that's a miscalculation on Per Stenson's part. If he thinks that when push comes to shove, now that we're in the silo, Daniel will come around eventually.
mm,
I'm not so confident that I think Daniel will come around eventually.
yeah.
And I definitely don't think Helen will come around ever. And this got me thinking about how through this character, we might start to see and get answers to all of those questions about the political structure in Silo 18. So I'm
Yeah.
speculating now that Helen will be the first person sent out to clean ever, for example.
Mm, mm.
Um, and who knows? My craziest theory that I don't believe, which I'll just throw out there, is that Bernard is Helen's kid. Just planting the flag, just in
Bernard is
case.
Helen's.
Just
Oh,
just
okay.
planting the
Okay.
flag just in case. They've only been
Okay.
in there for 70 years, and Helen's pregnant with Bernard. I hope that's not even true, but it was an idea that occurred to me. Because we're gonna have to talk about that tree more here in a moment. But yeah, I mean, I definitely thought this was a great episode, and it did get me thinking about some of that kind
Yeah.
of stuff, right? Because they mentioned the pact too, but then I'm imagining, okay, well, the original pact is not the same as what it is by the time we get to Juliet's time.
Yeah. Yeah.
We already kind of know that, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Just narratively, I think it is, it is on the surface a really interesting mystery of why they're separated. And structurally, we now get to see, okay, what's happening you know, in the silo where people are running things and what's happening in a silo where people have just been caught up in this. And, is there someone there that's supposed to take charge? What's going to happen in 18? And I do, I certainly hope this is not the last we see of Helen and Silo 18. I imagine that we will get a lot of that going
yeah,
forward.
I wouldn't, I would be very, very surprised.
Yeah.
Because of that, that's exactly the narrative possibility I think they've opened, which is to start explaining things by continuing this before time storyline in that way,
Yeah.
And we can then see the differences between what Silo 18 is like at the very beginning and what it's like now. We can start thinking about that, right? There's a lot of fruitful stuff here
Yeah.
that makes me almost feel like, well, we only got one more season, right? 'Cause it seems like you do quite a lot here. Um, you mentioned Peter Gabriel going to Silo 17. One thing I wanted to spin off from that is I do think there's a question. There's always been a question, but someone makes a joke about this. I can't remember now if it's Victor or Henry, but one of them says like, "That's my favorite Silo,"
Oh yeah,
you
Victor.
know.
Victor says that. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you're like, wait, aren't they all the same? He goes, oh yeah, just some Silo humor. Well, and
Yeah.
maybe you start thinking like, what if they are all different?
Hmm.
And what if each set of seven, because in the Juliet timeline, right, we've only
Yeah.
seen 18 and 17.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
17 was pretty similar to 18. There were some little differences. But I started
Yep.
thinking, okay, well, if it's seven sets of seven, maybe each set of seven is similar and there are little differences, but then
Yeah.
maybe there are even bigger differences between each um, group of seven.
You got
So
seven
that's something
different
I started thinking
experiments
about.
going on, basically.
Yeah. Seven
Yeah.
different experiments, each of which have seven different small iterations or
Hmm.
variations on the
Hmm.
experiment. Something like that
Yeah.
is what I started
I
thinking.
think that's a fascinating idea, and I don't know anywhere in show or book if there's an exploration of any of the other silos besides 17 and 18. And
Yeah.
so that's definitely interesting. We did get confirmed that there are 50, right? We talked about this 50 or 51. We saw a map of the breakdown of how they're all, some have seven,
Yeah.
some have eight. Um, I was interested by it because I think that's a fascinating theory and one that I would love to know more if they plan to explore that. Did we don't have this on our sheet, but did you make anything of the there's one on the map, there's one, and then there's kind of connected, it's sort of like in an org chart way, like connected to one, there's two, three, four, five, six. Not in the sort of connective circle that the other ones are, but almost like these, I don't know, maybe each of them have a purpose or a function or something to serve one because they're not in a group like the
Mm.
other sets were to lead up to the 50. I just happened to notice that when I was because I did stop on the map, counted, made sure just lots of different things to analyze there. It looked like they were different than the other groups.
Yeah, I didn't really notice that. So that's interesting. I'm gonna have to go back and look at that again. Um, Maybe it was because I got too hung up thinking about the tree, which I don't know how long we're gonna go. Hopefully we don't go. We've still got to talk about the whole thing in
Yeah,
Silo 18.
we do need to move on at some point to the
So
other.
I'll try to be brief here. I think I wrote several hundred words about that damn tree in my recap article. If you want to go and read it. Um, did you get thinking about this? The tree's there, is the point.
Tree in some form the tree is there.
The
Yes.
tree's there when the bomb goes off. Helen
Oh,
in
when the bomb goes off, yes, it's absolutely there. Yes, we're very clear on that. Yeah.
Helen and Daniel are on the phone. It's very clear that the tree's there.
Yes, clear.
Um, and I think the episode even kind of calls our attention to it because you have Bernard going and dying
Hmm.
underneath the tree. At least I'm pretty sure he's dead. We'll get to that in a moment, but I'm pretty sure he's
Yeah.
dead. This time it counts. Um,
This time it
but I
counts.
started thinking about that damn tree because we always have seen the tree outside the silo, right?
Yes.
And if it's desolate and unsafe outside the silo, it looks like a dead tree. Here's the thing. If the tree is dead, it would not have stood for 350 years.
Hmm.
A dead, I was doing the internet research, a dead tree might stand for a few decades or something like that.
Yeah.
Now, there's more. Is it possible for a tree to survive a nuclear bomb?
Yeah. This is the thing, is that thing was destroying everything when it wiped through. Yeah.
The answer is yes. And
Oh,
there's a
okay.
Japanese word for these trees that I don't have at the ready for the podcast, but it's in my article. You can look it up. It's got a Wikipedia page and everything about the trees that survived the bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki,
Okay.
some of which are still alive. So it's possible that the tree could have survived that bomb, at least. Now, you might think, as I did, that if the tree survived, if it's really been 350 years, it should have grown bigger.
Okay.
But I don't know. And this is where my factual research hit a little bit of a dead end because I was trying to figure out what kind of tree it is or is supposed
Yeah.
to be. And like I even did like a Google image search and Google very helpfully told me that it was a tree from the Apple TV series Silo. Um, I don't know. So like it's not a real tree. I think
Yeah.
I mean, at least according to Google, it's AI. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah.
Not AI, CGI, right? Like the the Google was claiming that it's a CGI tree. Um, and I don't know if that would even help definitively or not either, because I think we'd have to know something about the surrounding weather conditions and the
Yeah.
climate or
Yeah.
whatever. So, like, I suppose it's possible that this tree has managed to survive for centuries and is just kind of scraping by, and that's why it hasn't really grown. But it did make me think when Bernard dies, it seems like he kind of hallucinates or imagines leaves on the tree. And that is how I'm reading that, but it did give me a way to think back to that moment in season one that's bothered me for years when the power went out and it looked like the tree was lush. Maybe it was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like maybe it's the tree's alive and it does sometimes bloom. So they are giving people a false projection of a dead tree so they don't get the wrong idea. Not that it's safe outside,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the tree is alive. And so sometimes, I don't know.
And so I was going to ask you if your read on what Bernard saw was a moment of hallucination or imagination of this is what, I'd like to see before I die. Because when you zoom out and just show him dying, it's clearly in a sort of desolate landscape and a dead tree, or it looks like a dead tree next to him. We don't see anything that seems to be alive.
I watched it several times. The thing with these scenes, always, this goes back to season one also, is you have to watch really closely, and I hope we can trust the makers of this show on this front. But very often, when someone goes out to clean, they'll cut to inside the cafeteria,
Yeah.
right? Well, then which perspective are we seeing, right?
Right.
Because every time you see it from inside the cafeteria, it looks like desolate, hellscape with a dead tree. So, do you get moments that are from Bernard's perspective? It did seem to me that you get a shot that would be Bernard looking up at leafless tree limbs and
Yes.
then the imagined shot. So I do think that is how I'm reading that it was
And
his
then the
vision.
shot of Bernard like leaning against it,
Yeah.
where it looks like nothing it is alive.
Yeah.
That would not be from the perspective of the cafeteria. So
Yeah.
again, if they're trying not to lie to us, then it looked like it was as we have seen, sort of a deadscape out there.
Yeah, but then this weird kind of hallucination, imagination
Yeah,
shots in there, and what are they doing?
yeah,
I didn't see Holston's body. I didn't see Allison's body.
I didn't either.
I don't know if we should put a lot of weight on that. Um, I guess a potential explanation there. You had this remark from Camille a couple episodes ago about when they went to look for Lucas and Patrick's body and they didn't find him.
Yeah.
Like, I guess maybe it's possible that there's some kind of automated corpse collection by the silo that everyone knows about. Even I don't know. Like, otherwise,
I'm wondering
why wouldn't
if they're projecting in the cafeteria screen that their body's still there, but they are by something or someone being collected or being retrieved or something.
I didn't notice their bodies from within the cafeteria or outside of it.
Okay, yeah, I didn't pay attention to what we saw on the cafeteria screen. We used to see bodies or skeletons
Yeah.
from the cafeteria screen. I didn't check this time to see if we saw that.
I can't be 100% confident myself without watching it yet again because I was
Yeah.
kind of trying to pay attention to other questions. By the way, the whole tree stuff is what spun me out of the super wild theory about Bernard
Yeah.
being Helen's son or whatever, because it was like, oh, well, maybe it's only been like 70 years. And,
Yeah.
um, I don't know. I don't think that that's true, but I definitely got thinking a bit about that tree and maybe that exhausts it. There might be more in my article if you want to go together.
Let's stay with Bernard and think about this idea because you and I messaged about this long before we recorded today. Of we saw what looked like a rebellion that didn't happen at water filtration,
Yeah.
but Bernard is telling Juliet that his death will be a distraction for something else that he's keeping on fighting. And we see some explosions in the mines, but we don't see to what end or what goal that has. So, any thoughts on what that might be for, or what they're doing?
Yeah, first, I don't think that we're told in the episode. I don't think we even really have enough information to say that we know.
Yeah,
And Bernard didn't either, right? Like in that scene you mentioned when he's talking to Juliet, I think he's just expressing his faith in her friends. They're
yeah.
going to do something, you know. They're going to take advantage of this distraction. It seems like they're blowing up tunnels in the mines.
Hmm.
Camille mentions the mines, and
Yep.
that's part of why I'm, thinking that's true. She seems to have a pretty she seems to almost have a better notion of what they're doing than I do, which is a little frustrating because she's like, your friends are in the mines, they're going to kill us all. Like, okay,
Yeah.
what are they doing? My best guess, Ryan, is that they are trying to get to Silo 17 or something through the mines.
Yeah, yeah, we've talked about this. So this whole Silo 18 story is largely invented because we're trying to bridge some things here. So, I'm not aware of what their intentions are here, but that was my best guess as well. It's like, okay, we know from Juliet's story and what's happened, and from Lucas and Patrick that they're 17. The way this episode started was interesting because it started, the episode 8 ended with Juliet would want us to come up with a plan. Let's come up with a plan. Then this episode starts with Bernard going to Camille. So they clearly have some sort of strategy in place of what they're trying
Hmm.
to do. So I think this is a part of that. And I think a reasonable thing to assume that part of that strategy is let's go try to show people that there's a 17 and get people, get them over here or put ourselves over there, whatever they're trying to do. So let's sort of upend this whole thing by connecting these two silos.
That's what would make sense to me. They're in radio contact with
Yeah.
Silo 17 at this point. So off screen, could have been some coordination through
Yeah.
the radio in terms of trying to figure out where one thing connects up to another. They know, they know, or at least think they know, and we think that we know that they know that the safeguard has been disabled in Silo 17. So if they were able to open things up to Silo 17, you could see
Hmm.
maybe the idea of then people escaping to safety. Although I don't know if you've blown a hole in it now, could the poison seep through over there too? Also, what about the water? I meant to double
Yeah,
check something about the
you're in a
water.
dangerous place over there in 17. You're right.
Um, so I don't know. I don't know if that's the plan, but that's the best guess that I have. They do tie in the stuff about the elevator or lift or whatever term we want to use that they discovered
Yeah.
last week. That seemed more involved in trying to get to water filtration, but you do see them using it as a part of whatever their plan is at this point. So I don't know. That's the best guess that I've got because
Yeah.
they don't give us those scenes of them planning. They're just giving us the action and we have to read into it.
Yeah. I think that's extremely reasonable and does harken back to the beginning of the season where we had the guy, I forget his name now, but we've seen him several times talking about, how old things seem to be and how far they're drilling and they're getting to certain things they don't understand. And we've been trying to, go to certain places. And so they're just trying to extend that. And now that they know that that might be the best way to get to another silo.
Yeah, well, it's easy enough to put together, right? They're only allowed to mine out so far. That's what he says.
Yep.
The guy's name's Ed Harwood.
Yeah. That's right.
Um, and then, so particularly for, someone like Juliet, Knox, Walker, they know about Silo 17. So it would be easy enough to put that together as an idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did start wondering here about the safeguard, and I don't know. I don't know how much of a question this is because in some ways the show is just making me question everything, and then sometimes I realize that I haven't really questioned something that maybe I should have questioned more. This would be one of those.
Yeah.
Are we sure the safeguard's real?
Hmm. The only I don't know, and I think that's a reasonable question to ask. I would just maybe point us back to, well, it's not even something we saw, it's something we heard, which is they believe that Jimmy's mother sealed up the area that she was in because there was so much poison coming in.
Yeah.
But that's an assumption made on something that happened decades ago that no one there saw. And so could that have been what actually happened? We don't know. That's what they believed it was going to be. But I mean, there's been
Well,
enough talk in various circles about the ability to take down a silo or do something to a silo, and Camille and the algorithm talking about that if it's not maybe it's not the poison from the pipe, it's something.
yeah, I mean, we would have to go a step further to imagine that Jimmy's mother also believed that what she was doing was sealing off a poison
Right,
pipe, right?
right.
But I don't know if that fully gets us to we know that this is
That we know.
true.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? What are our other sources? I think it's precisely the computer. It's the algorithm, right? So I just got to thinking about that. Is it at all possible that when push starts to come to shove, then the algorithm starts telling the head of IT about the safeguard or whatever?
Yeah.
Um, and maybe it's not real. Now,
Yeah, largely to this point, the algorithm has been a narrator of sorts, and we in this episode start questioning the idea or really introducing the idea that this is a very unreliable narrator, perhaps, right? It's not just a function of telling thing that it's being computed out, but what are you actually telling? Is any of this true?
yeah, and in Silo 17, the press like quote everyone died, but not because of the safeguard per se. If they sealed off that pipe, it was when they went outside.
That went outside
Now,
and let it all in. Yeah.
I'm still largely imagining that the poison is pumped into the area outside, but we don't know, and we'll see what we find out. Just something I started to think about now. Of course, if the safeguard isn't real, then there would be a question of, well, what is that pipe?
Mm,
Because there's a pipe. I think we know that there's a pipe, and we
that's
know
right.
that like Solo's mom sealed the pipe, and so on. So okay, maybe the safeguard is real. Um, but yeah, that's part of why I started wondering because it really does seem that if the algorithm was serious about doing this at some point, it'd be right about now.
I was gonna say it's like what more does it need? What more inputs does the algorithm have to have in order to say, okay, that's enough?
Right. I mean, so like it makes sense that Camille says what she says from her perspective, believing all of this, right? So just a question, and we'll see what we get in the series, the season finale next week
Yeah.
about that. Off of that, also the thing that happens with Bernard is in his inference that the algorithm is actually a person or there is a person on the other end. Maybe it's not always been the same person, it's the same voice. Um, what do you think here? Are we buying this or
Um, Hard for me to say, without giving
hmm,
some things away. To the question of whether it is an algorithm or whether it is a person, I think more importantly to Bernard's idea that, oh, it's getting frustrated or it's getting impatient is to what you're saying. It's like,
yeah.
okay, if this algorithm is just inputting variables to come to an equation that now it's time for the silo to end, why would it not have already come to that come to that conclusion? It seems like, when Bernard was head of IT, that would have been what they needed to do. But yeah, and it's just sort of back and forth with Camille and it just seems like it's now that this idea has been introduced, it just seems like it's just stringing Camille along all the time.
Yeah, so here's my line on it with Bernard's theory that the algorithm's actually a person or there's a person behind it. One, I'm not sure that I fully buy it. Again, the show makes me question everything, and
Yeah,
also I think it's possible that it could be um, a computer program, kind of like chat bots that we've become more familiar with in the real world, even that might feel a little bit manipulative or almost like they're feigning emotions or
Yeah.
whatever. Like I don't use Chat GPT and such really, but my understanding is it kind of does that to some
I
degree.
think there are lots of models that will do that. Yes.
Um, at the same time, part of me feels like this is the show using Bernard to give us this information.
Hmm.
So I'm maybe more prone to believe it than I would be if I didn't somehow have that sense that the writers of the show want me to believe it. I don't know. Does that make sense? Did it come across that way to you at all, or
To me, the
is this
important
just
thing
me?
was making sure that he passed it along to Juliet to
Yeah.
make sure that that knowledge or that idea or theory lives on past him. Um, idea that someone can now take that to the group or explore it or try to figure out or try to negotiate with Camille about what's really going on here. It doesn't just that idea doesn't die with Bernard. We now have a new mission that we can look at if he is in fact right, or at least something we can explore.
Yeah. I think he does have to be right, at least along the lines of saying, this isn't some kind of omniscient super intelligence.
Yeah.
It can be defeated, is almost the point, right? When he says, one thing I know about a person is a person can be defeated.
Hmm.
That is where I feel like the show is saying, like, believe this. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And the characters need to believe it as well. It's not infallible. It can be defeated. It can perhaps be tricked, various things along these lines. Um, and maybe it is a person behind it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is interesting. We hear, by the way, we hear that voice in the before times. After the bomb goes off is the first time we hear the voice of the algorithm in the before times.
Oh, it's the same thing. Oh, I didn't even pick up on that. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It was noteworthy to me because I thought, well, prior to that, there's kind of like an automated computer voice, but it's different. But after the bomb goes off, the voice that tells everyone to get into the nearest silo is the algorithm voice that we've been hearing.
Same voice. Interesting. I had not picked up on that. Okay.
My subtitles might have also said the algorithm. I was watching with
Oh,
the
okay.
subtitles on. They might have also said
So,
it was the algorithm.
so yeah, I mean that could be then what Bernard is saying. Same voice, different person.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just that the voice is going to stay the same no matter how long it's in use or how many hundreds of years we use this algorithm or whatever. But yeah, that's an interesting point.
I don't know. It's weird though, because it's just like, of all the things, it's super plausible to us as viewers that it would actually be a computer.
Yeah,
Like of
exactly,
all of the things.
exactly.
So I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is it more plausible that it's, based on what we know and when we live, that it's just some sort of AI capability, or is it more plausible that, this has been hundreds and hundreds of years and somehow there's still a person there that's manning this thing or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's like weirdly more plausible to me that it's Siri, you know?
Yeah.
So it's we'll see where they're going with that. But that I think that was why it started to feel to me like, oh
Yeah.
well, maybe it is really going to be a person, and this is the show um taking this opportunity
Yeah.
to try to get us thinking that, and which includes, Bernard making reference to the Wizard of Oz, which featured in the storyline back in season two with
Hmm.
Salvador Quinn and breaking Quinn's code and all of that, right? It was a book code from the
Yeah.
Wizard of Oz. So, um,
And I thought before this episode, I thought after what we heard at the around the dinner table in episode 8 about it, coming online, becoming self-sufficient, that was a okay, yeah, we get the farms working, the sunlight, whatever it is that they need to do to make this thing run. But also, when you talk about making it self-sufficient, well, get this, get their Siri or their AI capability online so that it can run itself, far, far, far into the future.
yeah. And I still kind of think this is possible. I still think it's possible that everything is being run by the computer program.
Hmm.
And, because in some ways, that's almost the most dystopic kind of possibility if at this point, there is no human being who could change anything. It's just it's all the computer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but we'll
Nothing will
see.
change until the computer that's been told when it will change. That's when things will change.
Yeah. And so to circle back around to a question we've talked about many times, have they really been in there for 350 years?
Yep.
Has it somehow been a shorter period of time? I mean, I started playing with that in more specific detail in ways I've referenced a couple times here today. And it probably pushes it a lot to go all the way to the level of Bernard as Helen's son.
Yeah.
Um, but I do think that it's possible that the rebellion that happened, quote, 140 years ago, happened more recently than 140 years ago.
Yeah.
And, it's like I do think it's possible they've been in there for a shorter period of time than we've been told.
Yeah.
And
And they've been intentionally ambiguous and vague about all of that, and lots of different possibilities of timelines, lots of different ideas of when things happened and when they could have happened, and making us question that. So yeah, I mean, we'll clearly find out, but I don't know that we have hard enough evidence to make an answer on that yet.
yeah, I mean, I guess one thing I started thinking about is if things go at all as I'm imagining in Silo 18 with Helen
Mhm.
in particular, I think they're going to wipe everyone's memory very soon.
Yeah, how far back have they been using um, memory suppression or memory wiping drugs? Yeah, that's a good question.
At least this is what I'm imagining, and then that's also tying in my thought of like, okay, well, maybe all the silos are different, you know. Um, so if we're just thinking about Silo 18, Helen could explain a lot of this stuff we've been wondering about in a certain way, not a good way, not a way that makes you feel good,
Yeah,
but like um that she is from the beginning, you've got this smart, savvy woman who refuses to go along and wants to go outside,
right.
even if she's going to die. Send me outside, right? So, like, what does the original pack look like? It wasn't even have this stuff about cleaning or whatever in there. I don't know. What
Yeah.
about another silos? Maybe their pack doesn't include any of this stuff. How much of this was created to deal with a problem like Helen, as it
Mm,
were, right? Including then carrying it forward to making these decisions about who can have kids, because now you've realized that you don't want to continue these genetic lines where you think that you're going to get more people like Helen. Of course, it's a failure
yeah.
and reprehensible morally speaking regardless, but like
Right.
maybe that's the kind of rationale that's at play. um so yeah, I mean, I don't know, I'm really excited to see where we go with this, and I think that they've done a really good job ultimately of setting up
Yeah.
through these characters of Daniel and Helen a narrative path to explore a lot of these questions in what I hope will ultimately be a satisfying way.
Yeah. We've got a lot of paths to explore. I do think they have set it up. They have set it up well. There's certainly some things that I'm interested to see. There's some things that I don't know. Like I said, there's a lot of license. There was even an interview with Hugh Howey this week about did he agree with some of the major changes that they have made in this season compared to what's in the books, which maybe at some point in the future we'll be able to talk about. But he said largely, yes, these are improvements on what I've done, and I think
Mm.
that they have done enough to really set us up for what I expect will be a very interesting finale, and will set up what the tension of the last season will be.
Yeah.
Um, I
And
have. So I pulled it out here 1 or 2 weeks ago. I forget when we were recording. So here's my written down weeks ago prediction in this folded up piece of paper. You can't
okay,
see it.
I was
So
gonna
we're
say
going.
I don't see anything written on the
No,
paper,
all
right?
it says on there is silo prediction.
Okay, so
And so if we can reveal this next week, we're going to see if I'm right about how this season ends. So
everyone's just going to believe Ryan that he actually wrote something on this piece of paper that I'm seeing through a computer screen. And like, of
it
course, we should just be trusting and all of that.
yes.
But no, 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 I do
Just
though.
like just like
I
in the
do.
silos, you should just trust it. Yeah.
Yeah, just trust your eyes. No, don't trust your eyes, but were you going to believe me or your lying eyes? You're going to believe me, right? But no, trust that you're being honest about that, and we'll see what's there. This is your prediction for how season 3 will end.
Yes. I mean, you can't see it. So, you could, I'll show you. There's something written on this piece of paper. You can't see it, but that is my prediction for how the season will end.
It is interesting to me that you mentioned that because you've made a comment along those lines before in that vague sort of way, and I
Hmm.
actually did wonder if it was the end of this episode. Like I wondered if it was Mushroom Cloud on the horizon.
No,
So see
like,
now you're here, my brain juice is going. It's like no, Ryan thinks it's something else. He got
like I
something else
said,
particularly in mind.
if book two is a prequel, we just finished the first third of the book.
Yeah.
And so there is a lot that we clearly can't get to in one episode,
Well,
assuming we aren't going to drag it into the next season, which I just don't know.
it seems kind of clear to me that they will. Like I'm expecting at this point, season four to keep playing in both timelines,
Yeah, I
even
would
if
think
that
so.
means diverging wildly from the source material. I
Yeah,
think that's how it's been set up as a TV show. It's going to keep playing in both timelines,
yeah,
probably for most of season four. And honestly, man, I mean, given all the stuff we've been talking about, of course, we'll have to see what they do in the season three finale. And if you want to, you can do quite a lot narratively in an hour of television, but we'll
that's
see
right.
how much it is. Still, I'm kind of hopeful that season four is just going to be like bang, bang, bang. You know what I mean? Like there have been times
Yeah,
where we've complained about it feeling like this series has been spinning its wheels or something like that, you know. And my explanation has often been thinking about how, oh, well, they kind of decided here's where the season begins, here's where the season ends. We've got 10 episodes and we're going to fill it in. And sometimes in the middle, it does feel a little bit fillery.
yeah,
But now, if they've made a similar decision of like, here's what we're going to leave to season four,
hmm,
and they're leaving as much to season four as you're indicating to me, having poked in the books a bit, you know,
yeah,
and it's like, well, they're just going to have to like get down to it, is what it
yeah,
sounds like. Because
yeah,
it sounds to me like you're telling me that seasons one, two, and three will have gone through one book and one third, and
hmm,
that season four is going to have to go through one book and two thirds.
yeah. Now, I
That's
think
what
we did talk about, I think it was two episodes ago, a large part of the second book
yeah.
is this character mission. And we
Okay.
see this whole story, what happened. So it's sort of an in-between timeline. And so we got the journal entry. So I don't think we'll
Yeah.
get any of that.
I think that either we won't get any of that or we will
Mm.
because it's actually in Helen's timeline.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
That's just, I don't know.
I'll 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 keep my mouth shut on that. Okay.
But I mean, I think that like the again, this is the wild theory. I keep mentioning that I'm not endorsing or something, you know. Um, but I played with the thought for a while that maybe they haven't been in there as long as they think they have.
Yeah.
Um, and we'll just have to
And they
see.
may and considering the endorsement they've got from the creator of this text, they may go way off the reservation of what's
Yeah.
actually happened. I mean, I do not know because I have not gone past a certain point. So we'll
Well,
see.
and like certain things make a big difference here because, you know, like part of the reason I keep returning to the thought is if we accept 350 years, man, that is a long time. That is a long time.
Mhm.
You know, we can look back from where we are 350 years ago in human history, and we're talking about like Rene Descartes, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
that's right.
it's so the idea that you would do something and somehow, like if you're Per Stenson, somehow think it's going to carry forward. I
Yeah.
don't know. Is there any possibility that Per Stenson manages to become a digital consciousness or something like that? I mean, um, and just like even thinking about a plan like this on that kind of time scale,
Yeah.
unless it were, oh, it has to be 400 years because, you know, it won't be safe to go outside for that long or something like that. And that was well grounded in data or something. It's still just like it's hard to fathom a plan with that kind of time scale involved to it. And again,
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
know if the rest of the world is like, is the rest of the world fine?
Hmm.
And if they are fine, do they even know about the silos at this point? Has everyone
Yeah.
forgotten? Um, or maybe like maybe it's not fine. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
maybe maybe even at the limit, the people in Silo 18 really are the last human beings who exist. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like, really looking forward to learning
I
more. I hope we
honestly
get more into
cannot
that.
wait for us to find out. I really get. I mean, it's not often that we get to this point where like, man, I just I am very, very intrigued about what we see next because there's so many. I remember feeling this way about Lost. So many questions to answer, and what will we get, and what's important, and what's not. I'm starting to get that itch a little bit.
Yeah. So we'll see what we get in the season 3 finale. And we'll be back to talk about that next week. And at least, Ryan, I'm going to try as a part of that to I'll come up with like a list of questions that I have coming out of
Mm.
season 3 because there's only one more season. We've been told that, right?
Yep,
So this
yep.
would be like the list of questions that Cameron thinks season 4 definitely has to answer in some way. We'll see if I have that full list next week. Maybe I won't.
Okay.
Regardless, anything else you want to say about this one before we wrap up?
Boy, I think we've exhausted it all that we can.
Gone pretty long. So angry after watching this episode. I had trouble sleeping. And because I interpreted the way I laid it out before, and it was just like white hot rage at this fictional character for having done this.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, I guess I do hope that at least, even if I won't ever buy the justification, I hope there's at least enough there that I can like attenuate my
Yeah.
moral judgment a little bit. But I really don't think
Yeah.
it's forgivable with regard to Daniel and Helen in particular and what they've done to them. So
Yeah. We will at some point, I imagine, whether it's next week or in the future, explore the the justification that exists if this is what has happened. But yeah, that's just one thing for me that I'm just so excited about is them having created this character that is such a wild deviation from anything that I know. It can go anywhere, and so I am looking forward to myself being surprised about what's going to happen.
yeah, all right. All right, we'll leave it there. It's been pretty long. Thanks always for listening. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. So please do leave a good rating, review, all that good stuff. If you're on YouTube, hit that thumbs up. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and greatly appreciate it. Be sure to check out TVObscast.com. You can find written work on all sorts of TV shows there. I have been doing written recap articles on Silo if you want to read my thoughts. Ryan's currently writing on Lanterns. We've got some other stuff going on as well. Poke around the site. There's lots of stuff there from over the years. If you want to follow us on social media, search for TV Obsessive. You should find us. And as for the podcast, we'll be back with you next week.
All right, see you then for the finale.